Kia ora koutou, I'm Julia Grace, back with you again with another reminder to be kind to your mind. How have you been going this week? Anyone feeling tired? I've been feeling really exhausted and yawning a lot, but I haven't been doing much actually physically. And there's a really good reason why sometimes we feel exhausted even though we don't spend a lot of time moving our bodies. Our brains are energy hungry monsters. Let me explain. They hold around 2% of our body weight, and yet they use up around 20% of our energy. So when we're using our brain a lot, we can come away feeling like we've literally run a marathon. There's 3 ways that our brains are activated at the moment that can really make us feel tired. First of all is mental cognition, using and working our way through data. We've got a lot of data coming at us at the moment, a lot to juggle as our brain is sorting through all of that information, and that can make us feel quite tired. Secondly, we've got fight, flight or freeze responses. Our body is being sent into those fight, flight or freeze modes by what's going on around us. Thirdly, we've got this thing called emotional load. Emotional load is where we are carrying the feelings of others. And that, while it's going on in the background, can be incredibly tiring. I want to remind you of our little science spot, is that stressed out brains are offline brains, and it really does pay to plan ahead. And today I want to talk to you about the beauty of boredom. Things look different when we're under pressure and our brain responds in a different way. When I was a little girl, I remember with a friend of mine, we decided we were going to be super brave. We were going to go camping in the backyard. We pitched our little pup tent, remember those? And we gathered our scroggin and got our sleeping bags and our torches, and we went out and camped. Our excitement was high, but there's a little bit of nervousness in there as well. That fight, flight or freeze mode was definitely activated in amongst this super exciting activity. And I remember just lying there and with my eyes, wide open, and I heard a noise. I heard a rustling and a grunting and a snuffling, and I looked across to the side of the tent. And as I looked, I noticed, silhouetted against the light of the street lamp that was leaning against the edge of the tent there, I saw 2 ears come up. Now, I was freaking out at this point. I had snuffling, I had moving, and I had ears. Now, I came to a conclusion that any logical person who read a lot of Asterix books would come to. Yes, it was definitely a wild boar. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're gonna have to do some research. But in Asterix books, they had wild boar everywhere, and I was like, definitely a wild pig outside there. I woke up my friend, I was like, there's a wild boar, there's a wild boar. She's like, oh my gosh, I was so confident. So we ran 6 paces into the house, slammed the door, and I looked out the window searching for the wild boar. And I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked. I couldn't see a wild boar anywhere, but what I could see was a teeny tiny little kitten that had come out to see what on earth we were doing camping in the middle of the backyard. Isn't it funny how when we're under pressure, things take on gargantuan proportions. They seem so much more scary, and our responses can be really over the top. There's a wonderful story in Mark chapter 6 verse 30 to 31 where Jesus was approached by his disciples who'd been out on a ministry trip. They've been having a great time doing all these cool things, and they came back, they're like, it's been fun, they're excited. And he noticed some things about them. He noticed that they hadn't had enough to eat. They hadn't taken any rest or sleep. And he said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Rest, when it comes to our mental health, is deeply underrated because we worry that we're going to get bored. But boredom breeds brilliance. When we allow our brains a chance to actually stop and get a little bit bored, it can sift through the information that it has. Remember I said at the beginning of today's chat that our brains are energy hungry monsters. They try and take shortcuts wherever they go. We want a good solution, it'll try and come up with the quickest one. Have you ever walked away from a situation where you were trying to problem solve and you've noticed that hours or even days later your brain goes, ding, and you come up with a solution. So if you need a chance to let your brain get a bit bored and breathe some brilliance into your world, I'm going to give you 3 letters, S-I-T. You don't have to sit down to do it, but these are the ideas. Firstly, keep it simple. Some people do gardening. I've taken up cross stitch, knitting, repetitive. Doing dishes is good for your brain because of the warm soapy water and the smells and the repetitive movement and the looking up and looking out the window. They're just boring, mundane tasks that give our brains a chance to dial back, get a bit bored, and come up with some brilliant ideas. Secondly, make it intentional. If you're going to take time to get bored, do it on purpose. Otherwise, you're going to feel guilty and you're going to spend the whole time thinking, I should be doing something else, I should be doing something else. And that's not going to work. If you are deeply uncomfortable about taking time out, number 3 is time. Put a timer on. Say, I'm going to give an hour to do a really mindless, boring task. Give yourself a chance to dial back, tune out, wind down, and let your brain do what it does. Remember what Jesus said, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Give your brain a chance to recharge and come up with some brilliant thought. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Ka kite anō.